Parts of the area are still seeing the effects of this spring's historic flooding. Massive containers, possibly containing dangerous chemicals, have been making their way down the Missouri River.
Yeah, you're seeing some of the pictures here. Can you imagine? 41 Action News reporter Emma James is live along the river. She tells us how the containers got in the river in the first place.
Well, the Department of Natural Resources says those containers are actually coming through Missouri from Nebraska and Iowa. Now, there's no need to worry about them actually contaminating parts of the river, but a local river cleanup group tells me it just goes to show how powerful the spring's flooding was.
A pretty incredible year of just water levels across the entire state and the region.
Stephen White runs Friends of the River, a group that cleans up the Missouri River around the metro. A lot of work goes into it, so White says it's disappointing to hear thousands of gallons of chemicals are floating down it. He says there's always the risk the containers will hit something like a bridge or a boulder.
So you run the risk of hairline fractures in that metal and some of that stuff leaking out or becoming exposed.
The containers, some of which look like this, are mostly from Nebraska and Iowa. Environmental scientist Stephen McLean says they're likely from farmers who weren't able to save them from flooding.
We had a lot of flooding in Missouri, but we knew our flooding was coming. The folks in Iowa and Nebraska had little to no notice.
McLean says the containers range from small buckets to 500,000-gallon tanks. So far, the Department of Natural Resources has found more than 740 containers this year. Many have diesel fuel, pesticides, or ammonia inside.
Reaching out to the ag and the hunting community to help us locate any of those that they may find.
But McLean says it's been difficult. He wants to remind people who live in floodplains to write their contact info on containers with chemicals. He says the agency expects to be collecting them through at least January. White hopes the job gets done.
As long as we're getting them out of the river and out of the river corridor, that's the most important part.
Now, if you do see any of those containers floating in the river, be sure to call the Department of Natural Resources. Don't touch them or try to pull them out yourself. You can find a number for the agency on our website. Reporting live in Kansas City, Emma James, 41 Action News.
Between spring and the end of September, the Department of Natural Resources has recovered more than 12,000 gallons of recycled organic material. We're talking things like fuel, pesticides, herbicides, 6,000 gallons of non-hazardous materials, and 160 yards of solid trash.